These are my top 10 lessons from 2025. Unfortunately, some of them I had to learn the hard way. Welcome back to the Big Lad Podcast. I'm your host, George. I guess let's get into it. Number one, it is a massive one, not only for me, but I think a lot of people need to take notice of, is going alone is better than not going at all. Now, this one actually started, I think, back in 2024. There was a gig that I wanted to go to, which was Chris Stapleton. I asked around my mates, none of them were really into country music or really ever heard of him. The tickets, to be fair, were pretty expensive. I think they were over £100. And this was literally on the day or the day before the actual concert. And I just sat there and decided, why don't I just go on my own? And I'm so glad that I did, because it's one of the best gigs, hands down, that I've ever been to. It was unbelievable. He sounded exactly like the record. But this has then spiraled onto other things. I went to see Chris Williamson on my own. Again, very similar thing. I had friends that kind of knew of him, hadn't really listened to his podcasts, and didn't want to do the round trip to London and weren't willing to sort of fork out the money for someone that they didn't really listen to. I think a lot of people need to realise going alone is better than not going at all. Things like going out for food, going to restaurants and going to cinema and things like that. Don't wait around for someone, because it's just not worth it. You may never end up going. And by going alone, not only do you get to experience things that you want to experience, but two, it also builds you as an individual to get that confidence that you can go and do bigger things on your own. You don't always have to rely on going with someone. So that would be, I think, is one of the biggest lessons that I think people need to learn, not only myself, but just going alone is better than not going at all. Number 2 on my list is burnout. I suffered last year with a big spell of burnout. It was probably around 2 to 3 months around the middle of the year. And I don't think I necessarily saw the signs until it was noticeable in my mood. I wasn't going to the gym as often. I was maybe going once at a push, twice a week at some points, which might be normal for some people, but for someone that's been going to the gym for the last 14 and a half years, it's pretty unheard of for me to only be going to the gym once a week. And sometimes I think there may have been a couple of weeks in there where I didn't go at all. I was just absolutely drained. I was very busy with work. I started a new job in March. I did quite a lot of travel. I had my podcast. I also set up a second podcast during that, which has kind of died off a bit. That was a football podcast with the lads. Commitment issues with that one from a couple of lads, which is fair enough because they have got kids. I was very busy. I was going on hikes, which had a lot of travel, obviously early mornings, big long hike, and then having to do the drive home as well. So all that stacking on top of each other was a lot. I just felt constantly drained and I was in a bad mood. People were noticing it around me, and I just had to take some time to myself to recalibrate myself. And I think the thing that got me through it was actually pushing through the burnout, which was getting back into a routine of the gym, going back to my usual things, trying not to overload myself, trying to say no in some ways. I like saying yes to pretty much everything. I try and make time for everything. I try and make it work. And it got to the point where I had to stop doing that as much and just go back to the basics, which was going to work, going to the gym, just getting back into that basic routine. So I would, if you're going through burnout or starting to notice signs of burnout, I would start stripping back the things that you're doing additionally to the stuff that you need to do each day. Stick to a very basic routine would be what I would suggest. Set up a really basic workout plan, which was to get 3 weighted sessions a week done. Try and do cardio after those, which was just a basic 20-minute bike. I stuck to that for a good 3, maybe 4 months. It's now only just that I'm back into a proper routine, that I'm getting onto a different plan. I would definitely say just get back into a very basic routine of the gym. Strip it back, really basic exercises, and stop trying to put too much pressure, because during that burnout phase, I decided that I was also going to do the British Indoor Rowing Championships, which would have been in December. Trying to train for an event that's as taxing as that whilst going through burnout really isn't a good mix at all. So I decided very early on that I was going to not train for that, because it was putting too much pressure, too much load on me. I just needed to go back to basics, like I keep saying. 3 sessions a week, additional cardio where I could, and yeah, just try and simplify my life in a way. If you're struggling with burnout, drop me a DM. We can talk through it. Like I say, I've been through it myself now. I know what to look out for. No ways around it. So if you are struggling, drop me a message. Number 3, you become what you repeatedly consume, which is very much what I'm talking about is social media. These days, we spend a lot of time on our phones and we're taking in a lot, which is generally through Instagram, through Reels. It is designed to keep you in the app. They've used the same sort of technique as gambling with the whole swipes. It's just tickling your dopamine receptors. So dopamine isn't necessarily the reward. It's the what if, what could be next? Could it be something better, which keeps you scrolling? Also, other things like news, people that you're hanging around, podcasts that you might be listening to, and also the food that you're consuming, because if you are consuming a load of junk food, you're gonna tend to feel like rubbish. It's going to affect your mood. It's going to affect your energy and how you feel. Last year, I've probably still not really cleaned it up, to be quite honest. There's a lot of negative stuff that I was coming across online, and it was affecting my mood. It was affecting my thoughts, what I was thinking about. And it is something that I'm focusing on, unfollowing accounts that no longer serve my goals and what I'm aiming for, and things that are wasting my time. That is a big one. I'm going slowly through the accounts that I'm following. When I come across them, just hit unfollow. And you can't expect clarity if you're constantly overstimulated. So if you want a clear mind, if you want to be able to focus, you need to stop the overstimulation of that scrolling. I mentioned it in a previous podcast. We often distract ourselves whilst trying to do something else. For instance, going for a walk, but scrolling your phone. Cleaning the kitchen, but you've got a podcast on. Instead of just focusing on the task that we've got to do, we often have another thing that's taking sort of mental energy and concentration away from what we're actually trying to do. Now, obviously, those are very simple tasks, but you get my drift. The question you've got to ask yourself is, what are you feeding your mind daily? Is it having a negative impact on your mood and your thoughts, or is it contributing to what your goal is and what you want to do? Figure that out. Get rid of the noise if you can. And there's a great quote by Marcus Aurelius, which is, if you're distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. It is just, if you are finding yourself in a bad mood, if you're finding yourself in a negative headspace, look at what you're consuming. Is that the driver for it, or is it driving you in the right direction? If not, switch it up, unfollow the accounts and follow accounts that are going to help you in a positive way. Number 4, comfort is the enemy of growth. So like I said before, I moved jobs in March. I found myself pretty comfortable where I was in my last job. I then also found out that for me to get to the next stage, I would have to wait for a while. So at the time, I was a junior commercial project manager. I wanted to get to a commercial project manager. There wasn't a flow of projects coming in for another year or two, but there were also very experienced commercial project managers waiting at the side, basically, for a project to come in. So they would have naturally got the first dibs on those projects, which makes sense because they're already in the role, they're waiting for projects. So I said to myself, what can I do to sort of take another step? And like I said, I was feeling comfortable. I could have stayed where I was, became a commercial project manager and still been pretty comfortable. I decided to move roles within the same company, but in a different business unit, to become a commercial project manager who was going to be working on smaller projects, but different types of projects and multiple of them. So I did that jump and made the leap. And like I say, comfort is the enemy of growth. So if I'd have stayed where I was, I would have been nice and comfortable. I wouldn't have necessarily grew as an individual in my career. Comfort feels safe, but it'll keep you stagnant. If you're feeling too comfortable where you are, sometimes you just need to mix it up and just go for it. Growth requires a bit of friction, a bit of discomfort and uncertainty. That is also exciting in a way. It's not a negative thing to have friction and discomfort. If we sit in our comfort zones, generally we're not going to see that much growth. You might see a little bit over time, but the real growth is in the uncomfortable things, the things that we don't necessarily want to do. And it can feel uncertain. You're moving into a different job. There's other things that this could be with as well. It could be, I don't know, from approaching people in public or at a bar, say if you found the girl or man at the end of the bar attractive, but you didn't necessarily want to go and speak to them, for all you know, they could be thinking the exact same thing. So you go and say hello, and all of a sudden it becomes something. There's another quote. So I've tried to get a quote for each of these sections. Man cannot remake himself without suffering, for he is both the marble and the sculptor, which I think is a really good one. That is a great analogy for stepping out of your comfort zone. Sometimes you've got to break yourself down a little bit, be a beginner again in some instances. Some people need to completely change up the career, which means maybe going from here, then you're starting a new role, but you're starting at a beginner level because it's a completely new set of skills that you need to acquire. But if you want to see that really big leap of growth, then you've got to go and do the uncomfortable thing every now and again. Kind of tying into the number 3. Number 5, you don't need more time, you need fewer distractions. So the amount of times in my personal training that I do online, you hear the excuses of, I just don't have enough time. And sometimes, yeah, that might be the case, but quite often it's people aren't willing to sacrifice to get the goal in which they want. So they say, I've not got the time to go to the gym 3 times a week. And it's like, if you actually wanted something enough, you would make the time. Yeah, we've all got the same 24 hours in a day. And at the end of the day, attention is the real currency to that. But if you really want to go and do something, then you will make time to do it. The thing is that people aren't willing to do is, because we've only got the same 24 hours in a day, something generally has to come out of that 24 hours for you to be able to put something in. And that may be watching less telly of an evening. It may be less scrolling on your phone. They're 2 pretty easy ones that you can cut down on pretty quickly to make space in order for something to grow you, to progress in a goal that you want to achieve. Like I say, our phones generally are our worst enemy because it's the constant checking and scrolling and reacting. They are made to keep us on it. Apps are made to keep us going on the app and scrolling through things. It's having that ability to sort of put that down and realize, no, I need this time to go to the gym because I want to lose 2 stone of weight. I need to put my phone down to go and work on a side project that I want to do, that I've always been saying I wanted to do. Like I spoke to a girl today that has been on the podcast, Beth Moody. She said that she wants to set up a podcast. So I said to her, right, we'll get on a call and I'll tell you exactly how to do it. I've been doing it for years. I can tell you all the ins and outs, all the little tricks. I said, you've just got to go and do it. So we've put those wheels in motion for her to get started. And I'm actually really looking forward to seeing how she does because her Instagram is blowing up. But a lot of people say they want to do something and never get around to doing it. How many people set goals at the start of the year to then be done by the end of January? Quite often the one is the gym because people want to get fit and healthy after overindulging in December. But how many people actually stay consistently throughout the rest of the year? Probably not a lot. The quote for this one is from Seneca. So it's not that we have a short time to live, but it's that we waste much of it. And that is so true. Go on your phone right now, go to your screen time. How much time have you spent on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, doing stuff that's not really benefiting you? How many times do you scroll your phone and then you go into a different room and you completely forget what you were looking at on your phone? The chances that you remember what you were scrolling 5 minutes ago are very minimal because it is having a minimal impact on your life at the end of the day. So try and switch up, or at least acknowledge the times that you're wasting time. Yeah, we all need downtime. That's fine. But when you're saying you want to achieve a goal, but you're doing nothing to go and achieve it, you've got to realize that something's got to give. And it is generally just time wasting watching reality TV or scrolling your phone. Number 6, again, this one links in very well, which is self-respect is built through keeping promises to yourself. You've got to keep yourself accountable. There's ways about doing it as well. So I said in the previous podcast, if you do have goals, let the people around you know because then they can also help you keep accountable. Especially one of the really good examples is if you're looking to lose weight, you may not want to be going to the pub for a pint. You might not be going out for food. Let your friends know that, right, I'm not drinking. I'm not necessarily going out for food at the moment, just to let you know, because I'm trying to lose weight. And if you've got good mates, they'll completely understand it. You might still get an invite because you never know. You might turn up and you don't have to drink at the pub. But by making people aware, they can at least pull you up every now and again. So if you did go to the pub and you did order a pint, your mate might turn around and say, oh, I thought you weren't drinking because you were trying to lose weight. Things like that can really help you. It doesn't just have to be weight loss. I'm just bringing that up as I'm an online personal trainer as well. But it could be any goal. If you let people know around you, they can also keep you accountable, but you also feel like you need to keep to it because you've told other people to do it. So it just comes from doing what you've said you'll do, essentially. And when you start breaking even small promises to yourself, you basically erode your self-trust. You start not believing in yourself because you said you were going to do something. You've promised yourself you were going to do it. You didn't do it. So you start doubting your own trust in yourself. So it's about that integrity when no one's watching, turning up when no one's there. Can you still do that? Can you keep you accountable and do it? And the quote from Jordan Peterson is, confidence comes from being able to trust yourself, which is massive. Those days where we don't want to get up early and go for a walk to get our steps in, the days that we said we were going to write however many pages of a book we wanted to write or a play, and we don't do it, that starts to erode that self-trust. So sticking to it, setting out guidelines, setting goals, but then breaking them down into smaller, manageable chunks. I said this on the previous podcast as well. We often set goals so big that we become scared to actually try and achieve them because we think, what's the point? I'm never going to be able to do it. Just break it down into smaller chunks. And then those little 1% start adding up, and you will then get closer to your goal. You may not hit that massive goal that you set yourself, but by splitting it into smaller chunks and hitting even half of them, you are closer to where you were when you started, or when you at least set that goal. So that is a huge one. Just keeping promises that you've set to yourself. Number 7, mental health improves when you take responsibility. So this links in very well to the burnout as well. Responsibility isn't necessarily blame, it's empowerment. It's acknowledging your situation and sort of in a stoic way, it's controlling the controllable and controlling the way you react to the uncontrollable. That is what we've got to do. Quite a lot of people react and sort of think really negatively about things and waste energy actually about things that they can't necessarily control. The only thing that you can do is control your reaction to it. If you can't control it, it's going to happen anyway. You can't really do anything. So control the controllable. And one of the things that you can control is your reaction to the uncontrollable. And then I've noticed another thing on social media, which is a bit of victimhood culture, which can feel comfortable. You say, oh, that's just me. It's just my luck. I'm just a negative person. If you're acting in that way, then that's where you're going to stay. Don't put a label on it. There are things that you can do to change your mental health. You don't necessarily have to always be in a negative space. If you're constantly bringing negative thoughts and negative energy to yourself, it's generally where you're going to stay. The only person that can really do something about it is yourself. Now, obviously, if you are really struggling with your mental health, use your support networks, use your friends, use your family. There's free helplines in the UK. There's loads of charities that you can also call as well, which are free. So don't think that you're just alone in all of this. You need to do something about it, own it, admit, especially fellas, we don't speak up enough about our mental health. So speak up and use those support networks. You can do it. You just need to take responsibility. Number 8, this is huge and also links into the going alone is better than not going at all. So most people are too busy with themselves to judge you. We often don't do things because we're too scared about what other people may think about it, which is absolutely mental. If you want to do something, go and do it. Life is too short not to do the things that we want to do. The fear of judgment will stop your growth. What I actually did when I first started the podcast and when I first started my fitness account was I literally blocked every single person I knew because I wanted to create a space that I enjoyed and what I wanted to do. And at the time, podcasting and fitness accounts weren't really a thing. Now everyone's got a podcast and everybody's got a fitness account to keep themselves accountable. It's more the PC wants free exposure, but that's another topic. What I will say is regret lasts longer than embarrassment. Quite often it'll be, if anything, a flash in the pan. It might be a little comment from someone, but the people that often comment negatively about something that you're doing is often someone that wouldn't do it themselves. I remember I got to a point where I just unblocked everyone that I knew, and I thought stuff that if they want to say something, they can say something, but I know for a fact they wouldn't do it themselves. It often comes from not necessarily jealousy, that's probably not the right word, but it comes from a place of just envy, I would say, in a way. If you want to do something, go do it. I think it's a quote, say, the graveyard is the richest place in the world, basically. And it's all the ideas and inventions and businesses that never happened because people were too busy thinking what others may think of them. It links back into going alone is better than not going at all. People are most of the time scared of what people are thinking about them being at a meal on their own or going to the cinema on their own or just anything in general on their own. How often do you go out and notice someone that's on their own? Probably never, because you're too bothered about whoever you're sat with. You're having a laugh with your mates, you're having some food, you're having a couple of pints. You've never really looked around and thought, oh, can't believe they're on their own. And even if you do, I wouldn't bother. If you want to go do something, go do it. People are too busy in their own worlds thinking about themselves. They're number one in their own worlds. No one really cares if you're there on their own. And if they do, it's immature on their side of things. So Eleanor Roosevelt said, you wouldn't worry so much about what others think of you if you realised how seldom they do. Great quote to end that one. So number 9, loneliness is often a lack of purpose, not people. You can feel lonely in a room full of people, but purpose in your life gives you structure, direction and meaning. If you know a goal, what you want to do, you need that purpose, something to drive for, something to aim for. If you've not found that purpose, a big tip that I could give you is to get a whiteboard. Write things down that you're interested in. Make a big spider diagram. That's what I did a while back. Write all your interests down, what you could do off the back of that. Find something that you enjoy and then enjoy the journey. It's not about the destination. Someone who can enjoy the journey will go a lot further than someone that's just in it for the destination. If you're in it for, I don't know, say £1 million business, but you don't enjoy the journey of getting to that £1 million business, you're probably not going to make it. Now, that is obviously a pretty extreme example. There's not many people that will just sprout up £1 million business, but it is possible. Finding that purpose is key, and men especially struggle without something to build or pursue. Again, that links back into the mental health. All of these have some way of interlinking, but just know, again, that if you are struggling with it, speak to someone. There are obviously mentors out there that you could have. It could be someone that's close to you. It could be someone from work. It could be a family member. It could be someone that you go and pay for. Having that purpose, finding what that is, will help you so much more, because if you enjoy it, you're more likely to stick at it. Get the whiteboard, scribble a load of notes down, and figure it out. Friedrich Nietzsche said, he has a why to live can bear almost anyhow, which is basically saying he who has a purpose will do anything to be able to achieve it, which is brilliant. Number 10, the final one. Your life changes when your standards do. Having standards for yourself, and again, keeping back to that, keeping promises to yourself, having standards for your health, your work, relationships, and your self-talk. Often we are our own worst enemies and our worst detriments, basically. We talk ourselves down, especially with our achievements. I feel like in the UK, we are really bad at celebrating achievements, whereas America really seem to prep each other up. If you've got someone that's pursuing a business or something like that, something they enjoy, it seems like everyone around them will lift them up, whereas the UK is the whole tall poppy syndrome and small town mentality, I would say. But having that standard for your health, a healthy mind contributes to a healthy body contributes to a healthy mind. That is one of the main things. If you are sleeping enough, you have got a good diet, you've got a good workout routine, you are generally going to feel better as a person. When you can link that in with standards for work, standards you can set yourself, everything is going to fall into place a lot more. what you tolerate becomes your baseline. So if your standards are high, that is your baseline. Anything below that isn't good enough. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And that's a quote from James Clear, which is something that everyone should set themselves, is having these standards in life, in literally anything, whether it comes to friendships, relationships. Having that standard for yourself will prop you up in a way. So I tried to really set some standards with myself at work, trying, especially as well with appearance. So I hate shaving. I would let my beard go long, and it looks awful because it goes really ginger the longer it gets. Having those, looking and feeling good in the gym, getting a new gym set, smelling good. These things are really basic things that you can do just to make yourself feel better. So having those standards for yourself will help 100%. And the quote I've got from Epictetus is, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. So basically do what you have to do to become this person that you said you would be. Really simple. And that is my top 10 lessons from 2025. I hope these have helped. If they have, share it with someone that may need this guidance as well. If you've not already checked out my episode 101, which was how to succeed in 2026, go check that out. It links very nicely in with this episode. If you've enjoyed this one, drop a like. If you're new, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.